Hello and welcome. My name is Mark, and I'll be walking you through some best practices for setting up access to an Infor Cloud Suite. When you first gain access to your Cloud Suite, one of your projects is likely to be connecting to your corporate identity management system. Doing so will make it easier to maintain user accounts in your Cloud Suite. Let's look at the options for this kind of interface. Here is a best practice view where the system of record will be the customer's identity store, for example, Active Directory. Let's review some of the important technical points and constraints and deployment considerations. Like authentication, federation must either support SAML 2.0 or OpenID Connect. If the OpenID Connect federation is used, it requires the customer's identity provider to be externally accessible. If you have multiple authentication sources, you can have up to 5 identity providers federated to a single Cloud Suite tenant. And Infor also supports IDP and SP-initiated single sign-on and single logout. For automated user provisioning or to provision users using groups, Infor supports SCIM, or System for Cross-Domain Identity Management. Or if SCIM is not initially available, user provisioning can be handled manually or by file import. There is also an option to use JIT, or just-in-time, for federated connections. You may also require custom SCIM mappings for your user attribute requirements. If you have an IDP which does not support SCIM, Cloud Suite customers are entitled to an on-prem IFS standalone application to be used for user provisioning and leveraged as a SCIM agent if required. MFA, or multi-factor authentication, is an authentication method that requires the user to provide 2 or more verification factors to gain access to a resource, such as an application. MFA via the federated connection is handled by the customer's identity provider configuration. There is a way to configure MFA on the tenant for internal cloud identity accounts. Also, Infor Cloud Identity accounts can be leveraged for guest users that do not exist within customer systems. If we look at the diagram, you will see the identity providers, which will be used for the account authentication and will be federated between the Cloud Suite and the corporate data center. You will also see the Cloud Suite Identity Store, which will be used to hold the setup of the tenant Cloud Suite user accounts or identities and used for authorization. If SCIM is used for automated user provisioning and maintenance, there will be a SCIM service enabled on the tenant and have a connection to a SCIM agent on the corporate data center's identity provider, which is then connected to the corporate data center's identity store. Please note again, the identity provider will need to be SCIM compatible. Another way of performing the authentication and authorization setup is to have the Cloud Suite HCM application be the system of record, or create accounts starting in the HCM application. You can use this option if you have the HCM application. Let's look at this configuration diagram. The federation between the identity providers is the same process as before, where you have the Cloud Suite IDP federated to the corporate data center's IDP and used for authentication. You also have the Cloud Suite Identity Store, which is used to hold the setup of the tenant Cloud Suite user accounts or identities and used for authorization. Here, automated user provisioning will be performed starting in the HCM application. BODs, or business object documents, which are XML messages sent through Infor's integrated hub, will be published to populate the account in IFS, or Infor Federation Services. Provisioning users this way can then use the API Gateway connection to an HR API interface on the corporate data center to update your HR application system. Please note, to use the HR API interface, it will require Swagger API documentation. If you do not have an HR API interface, a flat file can be dropped into a secure FTP location to be processed by your HR application. This covers basic authentication and provisioning. For more complex integrations, talk to your Infor project team. This concludes this presentation of the Identity and Access Management Best Practices. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to get notified when new videos are available.